Today we're going to learn how to write a fraction as a decimal. It is important to remember that the fraction bar in a fraction represents the operation of division. And so therefore we are taking the numerator 3 and dividing it by the denominator 5. And since 5 doesn't go into 3, we're going to write the number 3 as 3 and 0/100ths in this case. So we put our decimal point and add the 2 zeros, and then we move our decimal point up into the quotient and divide as if they were whole numbers. So 5 does not go into 3, it goes in 0 times, but into 30, 5 goes 6 times, and it goes in evenly with a 0 remainder. And so therefore we're done, and 3/5 written as a decimal becomes 0 and 6/10. In certain cases, as in the case with 3/5, we can avoid the division by finding an equivalent fraction that has a power of 10. So in other words, if we can write the fraction we're working with a denominator of 10 or 100, 1,000, and so forth, it becomes very easy to write that number as a decimal. Let's find the equivalent fraction of 3/5 with a denominator of 10. Well, we know that 5 times 2 is 10, and so therefore if we multiply 3 by 2, we'll get the equivalent numerator, and so 3/5 is equal to 6/10. And we can read 6/10 as we say it aloud. We can write it by just using our knowledge of place value. And so, therefore, 3/5 is equal to 6/10. Let's try another example. Let us work with 7/8. Now this time, 8 is not a factor of 10 or 100 or 1,000. There's no whole number factor of 8 that would work, so we'll have to actually go through the division. And so we begin by writing our numerator as our dividend, and we're dividing by 8. Again, we'll add some zeros because we know we're going to need them, and we'll move our decimal point into the right spot. And now let's begin dividing. 8 into 7 is 0 times. 8 into 70 goes 8 times, because 8 times 8 is 64. Remainder of 6, which is less than 8, so we're fine to carry down our 0. And 8 into 60, 7 times. 8 times 7 is 56, with a remainder of 4. And we can continue to add zeros without changing the problem. And so 8 into 40 is 5 times, and we get a remainder of 0, and therefore 7/8 is equal to 875 thousandths, which we sometimes hear said 0.875. Now sometimes you will have repeating decimals, such as the case of 1/3. If we divide 3 into 1, and again adding zeros as we need them, move your decimal point into the quotient. 3 into 1 goes 0 times, but into 10 it goes 3 times. 9, 3 times 3 is 9, remainder of 1, bring down the 0, and we very quickly see that each time the process repeats. And And so when that happens, we can express our decimal with a bar over the repeating part of the decimal. And so therefore we're going to write 1/3 is equal to 0 and 3/10, but a repeating over the 3 because the digit 3 repeats continuously. There will be times when you are dividing to several places before you get to the decimal. Oftentimes, especially in applications, you will be asked to round to a certain decimal place. So therefore, if you're asked to round to the hundredths place, you would divide to the thousandths place so that you could see the digit in that place and decide whether to round up. Stay tuned for the next mini lesson in which we will learn how to convert a fraction to a percent.